Hey everyone! So this video is going to be a very random type video. It's just going to be me answering some questions that I found online. So conversation starters or just random get to know me type questions. I thought it's been a while since I've actually been able to sit down and film a video, and so this was sort of an easy way to kind of ease back into that. So yeah, a lot has been going on, and it's good to be able to have a little bit of time to just film a couple of videos, and hopefully I can get them edited over the next couple of days and get them up as soon as possible for you. But I thought it might be fun to just answer a couple of random questions. You might learn some new things about me. But if there's any questions in particular that you want to know about me, like specific to me, leave them in the comments down below, and that way I can answer some questions in maybe another future video that you've asked, so that way you can actually get to know the things you want to know about me as well. But I've got a whole bunch of questions that I printed out, and I'm just going to go through and pick ones at random and answer those. And maybe at a future date I can film an ASMR version where I answer some other random questions as well. At the moment I can't do any ASMR videos because there's so much noise around me that it's been impossible to film it. The microphone just picks up too much noise, and it's just something that I can't do at the moment. So yeah, I'm working with what I've got and what I can do. So let's do this. So question number one. What did you want to be when you were younger? There's a few things, and when I was really young, I can't quite remember, like when I was a really young child, I don't remember what I wanted to do. But fairly early on, like primary school, late primary school, into high school, even after high school, I wanted to be a meteorologist or volcanologist, and it's something that I did seriously consider and really did look into. There was at the time one university that offered a course that was really relevant, but it would have meant that I would have had to have moved overseas if I wanted to pursue that career. So either to like New Zealand or Hawaii or part like USA, essentially. And that really wasn't something that I wanted to do at the time. So I didn't end up following that path. What habit would you most like to break, and what habit would you most like to start? A habit I'd like to break. There's a few things, there's a few little things that I think. I mean, I would like to be a morning person. So I guess they kind of coincide, that I would like to have more regular sleep. I do get insomnia, and so it's really hard for me to fall asleep and stay asleep. But I would like to be able to not be up so late, so I can actually use my time in the morning sometimes. That might be nice. So that's kind of a bit of both sides. What have we got? How do you like to relax? I guess it depends on where I am and if I'm alone or if I'm with people. But there's a few things. Sometimes I'll just sit down and watch some videos, whether it be YouTube videos or some series on some streaming service where I don't really have to think. So I'll do that. Another thing is sometimes I'll just have a show that I don't really care about a lot just sort of playing, and I have started to paint some rocks. It came about because when we weren't able to go anywhere or do anything, really the only thing that we could do is exercise and walk. And so when I was out for going for walks, I'd place down rocks that I'd painted, and that way little kids in the neighbourhood could find them, and even adults can find them. So that's something that I've continued to do as well, because I've actually found it's nice to just switch off and let out a bit of creative energy and paint things and draw things and put it out there, and that's it. So that's something else. I also do my nails occasionally. I've been really bad at that recently. And I last night actually went and gave myself a manicure finally. But it had been months since I had taken the time to really give myself a good manicure. But also my hands were a mess. It's another reason why I'm not filming a nail art video at the moment. I am thinking of some things that I wanted to film, but my hands are an absolute mess. I've been doing a lot of gardening, and I might take you on a tour of my garden. It's not a huge garden, but it might still be something fun to show. But my hand, I don't wear gloves when I garden, and I know that's bad. I know, but yeah, my hands were looking a little rough. A lot rough, very rough. So last night I just sat down for an hour or so and just gave myself a manicure, and it was lovely. And I'm looking at my hands and I'm like, oh, they look so nice and so finished. So yeah, that's another thing that I do to relax. Just something where I don't have to think about things and let the worries kind of just drift away. What qualities do you admire in others? I guess there's a few things, and it depends. I mean, we're not perfect, none of us are, and some of us have bad days, and sometimes there's a lot more bad days than good days. But I think as far as qualities in people, I'd like to think that I'm capable of having those qualities like confidence and motivation when I need them. Sometimes it's hard, particularly when, stuff is just going on. I guess motivation is something that I wish that I had more motivation when I'm not feeling the best, or when things are just crappy and they're just not going well. That's one thing that I do lose some motivation. And sometimes it's tiring for me with everything else. Like sometimes it's physically draining, and that's difficult. So it's balancing that expectation versus actual reality and what you're actually capable of, versus maybe what you used to be capable of. So that's another thing, is just having realistic expectations. I tend to set fairly high expectations for myself, and I know that. But I think, motivation would be a good one, because it's not just to do with work or personal life. It could be things like exercise or diet or, work, personal goals, all of that. So it would be good to be able to just have motivation that comes from nowhere. But some people seem to have it, and whether or not it's true or whether or not they're just putting it on is another question altogether. But yeah, that's one thing. What practical skills do you wish you had? I think I'm a fairly practical person. If you show me how to do something, I'll at least give it a go. I can do quite a lot just around the house, like DIY stuff and, outside, inside. So other practical skills. Does speaking as a second language count as a practical skill? Because it would be quite useful. I'm terrible at languages. I can cook alright, I can follow recipes. It's a tough one, actually. If you can think of anything that you would like, let me know what practical skills. There'd be things that I wish I could do, like electronics, like plumbing or electrical stuff. But again, that's like a learned trade skill, not something that everybody has. But that would be very handy sometimes, just to know that stuff. What else have we got? What is your favourite book, movie, song, and why? I don't read a lot. I've never really been one to read books. There's been occasions where I've enjoyed an author enough that I've read a few books, but I just don't connect with reading books. And I guess that's one thing that it would be nice if I did, but my mind starts to wander too much and I get bored. And it's not that I haven't found the right book, it's just the action of sitting down with a book, whilst to me it's kind of like a romantic idea that yes, it would be lovely to just curl up and read a good book, and the idea of that, the image that it puts in my head seems great, but in practice I just can't do it. So I don't really have a favourite book. Favourite movie, that changes, I guess. And I think I've got like a handful of movies I really like, but I don't think there's one that really jumps out or stands out above all others. I enjoy a range of movies, but I think Twister is probably the one that I watch the most and can watch again and again. And I think it comes back to a little bit of nostalgia, but also I remember when it came out, I was still interested. I was interested in meteorology, and it was something that I was getting into already and thinking about. And when that came out, it just kind of, well, I think it kicked off a lot of people wanting to become storm chasers and meteorologists, but not even know that it's meteorology. But then it became very popular, and now to the point where I understand that, you know, in Tornado Alley it can be a bit of a problem with, you know, wannabe storm chasers and stuff like that. But I think weather has always fascinated me. Storms and fog and the clouds and just hail and tornadoes. Actually, here in Australia, in New South Wales, we had 3. They're kind of like miniature tornadoes, but they still do damage. They're just not nowhere near as big as some of the tornadoes that you'd get, or twisters, whatever you call them, tornadoes you'd get overseas. But yeah, it was interesting to see that, and I'm fascinated by it. It's still something that I enjoy watching things about and looking into. I think, yeah, probably if I had to pick one movie, Twister would be the one. And a song, again, it changes. I have artists and styles that I like. Depending on my mood will depend on the music that I listen to. I think some of the songs I've been listening to, I've been listening to some stuff again from my teenage years. So some Linkin Park a little bit, but that bit earlier stuff. Evanescence, I'm always listening to Evanescence. But also things like Korn and Slipknot. Yep. Disturbed. Just stuff like that, random stuff. Yeah, some Creed, some Nickelback, don't come at me. But I think the song that I like, one of the songs that I really like is the cover of Sound of Silence from Disturbed. I think it's just magnificent. I really enjoy listening to that. There's just something about it. But yeah. What do you wish you did more of? Spending time with family, I think. And it's something that for months now, I think almost 3 months, is something we haven't been able to do. So that's been hard because we generally do spend a lot of time together, at least once or twice a week, and sometimes just random, you know, drop-ins and stuff like that. So that's something that I would like to do more of, and hopefully soon we'll be able to. And my dad, he recently retired, but he wasn't able to have a retirement party or anything because everyone was working from home and not allowed to commute or anything like that. He was also planning on travelling with my mum, and that's not happening even locally. So that's, you know, that was disappointing. But recently I ended up changing to a 4-day week, a 4-day working week. So I would have an extra day just to recover, I guess, for myself, to focus on my health, to focus on me. But the idea is also that hopefully I'll be able to spend some extra time even with my dad and do things like volunteer work or go to an animal shelter and volunteer for that day. Just do stuff that makes me feel better. Stuff that I don't have to stress about, stuff that just is good to do because it's good to do. So whether or not that be, just hanging out, painting rocks together. My dad is really into painting rocks, and he's actually quite good at it too, and so is my mum. And I look at some of the stuff that they make, and like my mum does these really cool animal rocks, and they're quite good, and my dad is just hammering them out. Like he's really enjoying it. But it would be good to just sit together and just have a tea and chat and be in the same room. So, FaceTiming's not quite the same. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to being able to get out and like maybe doing like a Meals on Wheels kind of thing for the day. Going to the animal shelter, going to those places where you can just volunteer for the day. Just stuff that, I know it sounds corny, and like feeding your inside happiness, kind of like not feeding your soul, because I don't necessarily think that that's the right way to describe it, but I can see how that's how some people would describe it. But just doing things that just are good to do, not because you feel like you have to, but you just want to. So that's what I wish I could do more of right now, but I'm waiting. It's going to be a while. Pretend money is no object. What would you do? I mean, ideally, I could travel to the places that I wanted to see, but that's not going to happen for a good few years. We were planning a big road trip across the southern part of the USA, so from Texas to Florida, going through some of the southern states, and potentially even throwing in like Colorado and stuff, and going all over the place, like a really big thing, or maybe splitting it into two, because there's lots of little places that we want to see, because it's very different in Australia than it is in America in a lot of ways. Like even the other day, my husband and I were talking, I was watching somebody, Garden Answer, on YouTube, and because I've really been getting into gardening and it's very inspirational, and I'm very jealous. But people decorated their porches and their houses for seasons, like autumn being fall. They just change up their flowers or put pumpkins out and things like that. And it's really not something that we do here. It's, really, I mean, for events like Christmas, yeah, people decorate. Sometimes Halloween, it's becoming a slightly bigger thing here in Australia now. But just, you don't really decorate for the season. You don't really do a spring thing. You don't decorate your house for spring. It's not common. Some people do it, but you don't really see it. You don't get the pumpkins and things like that. You just, it's not something that happens. So it was, we wanted to travel the real America, like go to the suburbs and see what the suburbs look like in different places. And there's places in Colorado which just look like if you think of the town in Dante's Peak, just a nice town at the bottom of a hill, and it just looks picturesque. But this town is like got quaint buildings, and it's like wood here, and just the streets, and just that kind of a look. You don't get that here. You can get like small country towns, and there's some towns like even near me, kind of close-ish to me. I think the closest thing that you could get is like Picton. That kind of a feel. A lot of movies actually film out that way for that reason. It has a look to it. Camden, where I live, is a beautiful little town, and by little it's not that little, but by comparison it's like a little town. It has somewhat of that feel, like that, you know, you can imagine having hayride things and mazes and stuff. Not that we do any of that. We don't really do a lot of that stuff here in Australia either, but I would love to experience that. You know, where you have like the strawberry fair and the pumpkin fair. That'd be like just something nice. So I'd love to be able to go and travel and do all of those things and experience them. I think now, realistically, if the money was no object and I was still restrained by or restricted by, you know, travel restrictions and things like that, there is a house that came on the market recently, and it is pretty much perfect for what we were looking for. I think it's on just under 4 acres. So it's on, I think 2.5 acres is 1 hectare. So it depends on how you measure it. So I think it's 1 point something hectares. But yeah, essentially, what would it be, 1.6-ish or something. But yeah, it's like 3.8 or 4 acres. And the house is an older property, but one of the bedrooms has been turned into an ensuite and a cupboard, like a walk-in wardrobe. There's 3 bedrooms, nothing fancy or anything like that, but enough. And there's room where I could add like an office, a separate office or something. But it has an orchard, like an enclosed little orchard, for like personal use, obviously, not for like big commercial use. But just somewhere where it's quiet and you can spend time outside and it's just peaceful. I think that's something that we've both, my husband and I, decided that's really what we want. So it came on the market and we went and had a look at it. We drove because it's not too far from where we were. We didn't get out of the car. We just had a look because it's not something we can afford right now. Property prices in Sydney are absolutely insane right now. That property, you know, 5 years ago, we probably would have been fine. Like it wasn't worth anywhere near what they're asking for. But the thing is, at the moment, they're selling. So it's crazy. Like even around where I live, properties are going for crazy amounts of money. But yeah, we're not really in a position where we'd sell our house and buy that one. The timing wouldn't work, and it's just not the right time. But that property is pretty much perfect. The location, the internet, which is a big deal for me and my husband, and yeah, I'd buy that house. That's something I would do, and that's something I would do right now. Let's pick a couple more questions and I'll try to wrap it up because I don't want this to go on for too long. I'll try to keep it under 30 minutes. But if you like it, let me know and I can do more. I kind of start to ramble a bit, but I think a lot of you have said that you kind of like that anyway, that, you know, you'll either listen to it when you're folding laundry or, you know, doing dishes or putting clothes away or just doing stuff. And sometimes I think that's a good thing, like just to have something in the background where it feels comfortable. It fills the room with noise that is pleasant and you can listen to it, but you don't really have to think too hard. I think we all need a little bit more of that sometimes. These ones, some of them are a bit corny, but that's because they're like conversation starters and they don't. What interesting place have you been to recently? Nowhere. Okay, a couple of easy, just quick questions then. What's your favourite thing to do with your friends? I think there's 2 things. I like to be in my home, board games, just playing games. It's something that I miss, and that would be lovely to have people over and just play games and maybe order pizza or some burgers and just eat and play games. Another thing would be to go out to a restaurant. Oh, I cannot wait. There's a restaurant in the city that I absolutely love and I haven't been there in years now. So I really want to go back there, and it would be great to be able to do that with family and friends. What else? Aside from TV and reading, what's your favourite indoor activity? I enjoy playing computer games, and even though if it's something like Minecraft, I actually really enjoy Minecraft. I used to play The Sims. That's not really, let's be real, it's not really gaming. But I used to play The Sims, and it's the things where sometimes I'll feel the urge to play, and then I'll play it for like 20 minutes and get sick of it. But I did start to play World of Warcraft again, and then I kind of fell out of that as well. I think Guild Wars 2 was something that I played, but I hadn't played that for a while. But I enjoyed that, and I think we had really good guild on Guild Wars 2. My husband and I were the guild leaders, I guess you would say. We had a lot of attendance, and it was a really great bunch of people. Same as when I first played World of Warcraft, we met some people through WoW that we actually went overseas and met them. Same as Guild Wars 2, we met some really lovely people overseas, and it was our intention that if we were able to travel, we'd go and say hi. But I did play Elder Scrolls Online about 7 years ago. I downloaded it yesterday actually to give it another go. It's a very different type of MMO for me. The crafting element is just really confusing, and that's something that stopped me the first time. I think the crafting side in Guild Wars 2 and World of Warcraft was a bit more intuitive, a bit easier to follow. But that's obviously by design. It's a completely different MMO to the others. But I'll see how I go. My husband's just started a character and he's playing it through, but I wanted to get some videos filmed and focus on a few other things before I, jumped into a time sink kind of hobby. But yeah, look, okay. I'll finish on this one because it's something that I just answered, but if you could only eat at one restaurant for the rest of your life, what would it be? And it would be the Malaya, King Street Wharf, Sydney. Hands down, it's never been a bad experience as far as food. I sat down not that long ago because I've been going here for a really long time. I've been going there since I was 16, I think it was, since I was 16. And so I've been going there for 20 years. And they've been around for 20 years, so that says something in Sydney restaurant scene. They've actually been around, I think, a bit longer, but the King Street Wharf location was where I first went. So I realised, I think I went there the year that they opened in that location. And I recommend it for anybody who comes to Sydney to try the Malaya at King Street Wharf. It's just, the food is incredible. The service is great. Just the location is good as well, particularly if you haven't seen Sydney and you're not sick of the city. I'm not a big city person. I don't have at the moment, it's just, I'm not interested in big cities and crowded places like New York and stuff like that. Just, it's not appealing to me at all. But if you aren't familiar with the city and you're just wanting to look at the city from a really nice view, it has a good view over the harbour, over Darling Harbour, and the Star City Casino, things like that, or the Star, I think it's called now. But it's in a really good location. You can catch the ferry, particularly if you go there around, I think it's March to May, somewhere in that. There's a Vivid Festival where all the buildings light up, and you can catch the ferry from King Street Wharf all the way around to Circular Quay. And that's, always a nice way to see the city without being really close to people and around. You can tell I'm a bit of a hermit. But yeah, I really like that. That's one of the reasons why I would go into the city on my day off or stay in the city late, would be to go and eat at that restaurant. There have even been times in the past where I have driven to the city just to get takeaway and then drive the hour and so back to have it at home. That would be the restaurant that I would eat at forever. The Kwaidu is amazing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They used to do satay chicken. I recently noticed that their menu, because they'll be reopening soon, their menu doesn't have it on there anymore. I'm very disappointed because they already got rid of a few things many, many years ago, which I still am sour about. But the Capitan chicken, the beef rendang and the Kwaidu is amazing. So those are my recommendations if you do go there. They're great. But really nothing's bad there. Even there's fish with ginger and shallots, and I'm not a big fish person, but they do that well. They do a lot of seafood quite well too. I'm just not a big seafood eater. A lot of it makes me get really ill, and the stuff that I can eat, I just don't prefer it. I prefer other things. Yeah, anyway, I think that'll do for now. I hope you're all having a fantastic morning, afternoon or evening, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.